Divorce Dad Diaries, day 190, and today I'm making New York baked cheesecake with a Weetbix slice base. So if you cast your mind back to when I made Weetbix slice like a fortnight ago, I made a comment about how this would actually make a good base for something, like a cheesecake. And I thought, you know what, let's put my money where my mouth is and make a whole ass cheesecake. So I haven't made one of these in probably about 15 years as well. That seems to be a common trend with a lot of these baking recipes. But you know what, got to start somewhere. So I'm increasing the Weetbix slice recipe by 50% like I did last time. So that's 6 pieces of Weetbix, well crushed, 1.5 cups of flour, or 1.5 I should say, 3/4 cups of sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of cocoa and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Realize that you've made the mistake of getting the baking soda out instead of the baking powder. So then you go back into your pantry to search for the baking powder because you're like, well, I got the baking soda out instead of baking powder. So the baking powder must still be in the pantry, right? And of course, do that for a couple minutes before you realize that, oh, I've already got the baking powder out. It's the cocoa I'm looking for. Correct your mistake and then add those 2 ingredients in. From there, it's 225 grams of butter melted, which I just did in the microwave. And then, of course, go ahead and mix all that together. Once mixed, chuck that into my 25 by 25 pop-out bottom non-stick baking tray and flatten that down. Put that in the oven at 180 degrees for 10 minutes. Once done, let cool and then chuck that in the fridge overnight to get properly chilled. So I'm going to be using VJ Cook's recipe for the New York baked cheesecake, but there's a small problem wherein normally you'd cook a cheesecake in a tin like this, whereas I'm going to be cooking it in a tin like this because I want to cut this up into slices that can go into kids' lunch boxes. But you see, this is significantly smaller than this. So if we, let's do some quick maths, right? We want to figure out the area of a circle. This is a 20 centimeter tin. The area of a circle is pi radius squared, so the radius is 10 centimeters, pi is 3.14, 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100, 100 times 3.14, this is 314 square centimeters. This is it says it on the side somewhere, there it is, it's 25 by 25, this is 25 centimeters squared, so that's easy, 25 times 25 is 625 centimeters squared. Twice the size of this would be 628 square centimeters, so this is 625, so it's about 199.5% the size of this. So if I wanted to do a cheesecake in this, I would need to double the recipe, but I don't want to double the recipe because I don't want it to be too high, otherwise it's not going to fit in their lunch boxes and it'll probably just fall apart. So I'm thinking if I increase it by 50%, 150% of the recipe, over twice the area is 75% of the height, so it'll be 3/4 the size. The next issue will be cooking. You might think because there's more, I need to cook it for longer, but that's not necessarily true because it's going to be over a greater area, greater surface area, greater transfer of heat or something like that. It's also going to be thinner, so the heat won't need as long to get to the middle. So I'm thinking instead of cooking it for an hour at 140 degrees, I'll cook it for I don't mind if I overcook it, so if I go for 50-55 minutes and then just check on it. Cooking times are a little bit harder to figure out. In this case, we just want to make sure it's not too wobbly. I remember sitting in maths class in high school and thinking, when am I ever going to use this in the real world? And tell you what, today's the day apparently. So first off, we're going for 750 grams of cream cheese. Bearing in mind that I've increased this recipe by about 50%. It is VJ Cook's recipe. So that is all room temperature. Get that into the bowl. From there, I'm going for 1/7/8 of sugar. Yes, I know, 1/7/8. Yeah, this is what happens when I increase the recipes by 50%. But in this case, I just measured out the weight of 1/4 cups of sugar and then just added 50% to that. Easy peasy. 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla essence. 3/4 of a cup of sour cream. This measurement bothered me, not because measuring 3.25 cups is difficult, but just because when I was at the supermarket, I was like, how much sour cream do I have to buy to fill up 3.25 cups of it? You know, it was a bit confusing. So in the end, I just chucked everything I had in there. 4 eggs, which I cracked into a different vessel and then put into the bowl. That way I wouldn't get any shell in there. And 3 tablespoons of flour. And if you've ever cooked a cheesecake before, you're probably watching this thinking, Daniel, what are you doing? Because here's the thing. Unlike most other recipes that I've cooked in the last few months, you're not supposed to just chuck everything in the bowl and mix it together. There's actually steps you're supposed to follow with cheesecake. Like, off the top of my head, you're meant to beat the cream cheese and the sugar together, and then I think you add the vanilla essence, and then the sour cream, and then the eggs, mixing between them, and then sift the flour in at the end and just lightly mix that in. That's off the top of my head. That might be wrong, but yeah, that's I could tell something was off. I have to admit, I'm really disappointed in myself. Like, it's not a difficult recipe, and I just didn't follow the instructions. Got a bit gung-ho, but it might still be okay. The only way I'm going to find out is by cooking it. So let's just get it in the oven, and we'll see what happens. So into the oven it goes. Still don't have an offset spatula. Got that all flattened out, and yeah, see how it is. Checked it at 1 hour. It wasn't cooked. I put it on for another 15 minutes. It still wasn't looking that great, so I put it on for another 15 minutes. Then it was looking really nice, and I was like, okay, I'll let it cool down in the oven. And I was worried about it being undercooked, but yeah, I don't think that's an issue. Yeah, I've seen plumbers with smaller cracks than that. Fortunately, it's all going to get sliced up anyway, but I'm going to let that sit overnight, and we will see what the final result is like tomorrow. Surprise! It's a state of emergency here in Selwyn today, so that certainly was unexpected, but, you know, we're going to be trapped in a house with a cheesecake, so can't be all that bad. It's just high winds. I'm sure everything will be fine. In this case, I'm trying to get the cheesecake out of my non-stick pan, which is my biggest issue at the moment. Turns out it did get a wee bit stuck, and it's quite heavy. I didn't want to scratch the side of my pan, so I didn't want to use a metal tool to get it out. Fortunately, I've got this guitar spatula, which always seems to make an appearance. Shoved that down the sides, got the cheesecake out, easy peasy. Because the cheesecake had sunken when it had cooled, it had these sort of ridges around the edges, so I thought I would try and cut those off to flatten it out, and naturally eat those, because I'm not going to let them go to waste, but yeah, the whole thing just kind of fell apart when I tried. So then I thought, you know what, let's just cut it, but then the Weetbix slice ended up a lot firmer than I thought it would be, so yeah. This has truly been just one fail after another. I cannot seem to be able to cut through the base, it's too firm when it's cold. And the whole thing is just falling apart. Credit to VJ Cooks, because this recipe is delicious. But I'm far too determined to quit this late in the game, so switched to a bigger knife, applied more force. You're supposed to wipe the knife off after every cut on a cheesecake, that way you get that clean cut, but I kind of gave up partway through, and eventually I had slices. It's messy, but I'm doing it. Let's see how it is with the base, and see whether my bright idea was a bright idea after all. Like, it is good, but a regular, like, cookie crumb base is good too, so it's sort of like, it's a whole bunch of extra effort, and I'm not sure if it's better than just putting biscuits and butter together in a blender. Neither of them overpower the other, which is what I was worried about. My god, I've eaten so much cheesecake chopping this up that I'm not even sure I can finish this one slice. It's so rich, and it's surprisingly not dry. It'd be the sour cream. Great addition to a cheesecake recipe. Baked cheesecake is just so good though. And I will catch you on the flip side.